We're back now with a Catholic author's new book examining the life-changing power of faith. As examples, he uses historical figures like medieval King Alfred, a doctor on an Arctic whaling vessel, and a composer in communist Poland. In the Song of Ascents, Tom Hiney writes in part, quote, "Some people foolishly say that being Christian is the delusion that life is easy or nice. What is rather true is that when you do suffer, you know to whom to go. You utter the words, Jesus or Lord, and know you are not talking to the air." And Tom is back with us now. Tom, thank you so much for staying with us. First off, I'm curious, what inspired you to research these historical figures separated by centuries, yet united by a reliance on God?
Sure. Well, my background is biography. I've written biographies before I came back to church, and just like some artists are drawn to painting portraits, biography is always what I've done. And you know, there's a tradition within the church of testimony and story, with Acts of the Apostles, even the Gospels themselves, and so it's been quite natural for me. I've not really questioned it. It's how I make sense of stuff, seeing how faith has actually worked out in real time in people's lives.
Yeah, and I know in one section you describe retreating German soldiers during World War II when they were surrounded by Russian troops. They made a rather unusual request. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so they asked Bibles to be dropped to where they were. There was no chance of them being rescued. The Russians were moving too quickly. And bear in mind that a lot of them had grown up in the Hitler Youth. They hadn't really known the Bible very well, but they had this visceral need to have bits of scripture. And they tore these Bibles up, what they were, dropped by airplane, and they held them to their chest. There was a survivor who recounted this, which is... well, it's an extraordinary moment. I mean, I could interpret what's going on there, but so could anyone else. It just, that image says a lot about the power of the Bibles that we sometimes take for granted in our homes.
Yeah, it certainly does. You know, I want to turn now and I want to talk about your faith journey. You were an atheist, and then you became a Protestant military chaplain, and then 2 years ago, you converted to Catholicism, and now I understand you're in the seminary. What an incredible journey. I'm curious, what drew you to the Catholic faith?
Well, I think, I mean, when I say atheist, or when atheism is said, I was probably just more interested in other stuff. I had quite a hedonistic life. When I came back to faith, the Christian faith, full stop, I was living in South Africa. I was based out there as a freelance journalist. And that was the big step for me, realizing that this story about this baby in Bethlehem was actually true. Once I'd made that step and I started reading, the Catholic writers that I read had a depth to them that I couldn't find anywhere else. And so I was gradually drawn through people like St. Augustine and St. Therese of Lisieux to understanding the value of the sacraments, understanding that church unity lay within a reunited Catholic Church. That was the conclusion I came to, and it was partly logical, partly intuitive.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. We really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to reading your book. Thank you again.
Thanks, Tracy.